was good.
That was pretty good.
And we have like a band now.
Three Musketeers.
Bonjour, divers. Hello, Wes. Hello, Samantha.
Hello. Thank you. Am I supposed to take that? Or?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Cool. Hi.
Welcome to Dive in Wonder.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you both here. We all know who you are, and if you don't, shame on you. Samantha Allsop, one of the most beautiful humans in the world, actress, singer, philosopher, Greek speaker, not new Greek, old Greek, Latin speaker, and just an angel.
Thank you.
Wesley 10. Ooh, how do we define you? So undefinable.
An abstract like algae.
Therapist, photographer, bestest friend, cook, annoying gastronomical human that I don't... Just an ethereal oyster eating,
Genius.
caviar judging
Caviar
human.
eating. Therapizing.
Therapizing as
magician.
fuck.
Therapizing as
Fashion.
I'm going to put that on a t-shirt.
Fashion icon.
Fashion night. Yeah. What don't you do? And Sammy introduced us both, and also the face behind Dive and Wonder, who you already had in the first episode in the interviews. So why are we ganging on here other than to release our new rap album? You wonder. That's not gonna happen in this episode. But we decided to get all together and speak about the ick. We actually have been discussing the ick, so we are not just going to speak about the ick. We want to speak about the difference between the ick and red flags and all the confusing waves we're dealing with as a generation. When it feels like relationships are very easy to discard, when someone wears red socks, or when they clap in the airplane, or when they're rude to waiters. So what's a red flag? What's an ick? Should we all be single? Are we all so tired of dating? And whatever else comes up will be welcomed here. We're gonna try to give context of the things we speak about, because we all know way too much about each other's lives.
Yes.
With that introduction, I will give the floor to the idea. You had the idea, because Wes has been. So we go to Wes usually with very toxic ideas. And then, yeah, that is so true.
I was going to disagree, but then I was like, no, that's true. Yeah.
And then he'll therapize and actually help the people dealing with us as well. Truly, they owe you a lot. A lot of people that would have been blocked out of their socks, and Wes is like, wait, but does this come from your childhood? Before you block him. So the floor is yours.
Cool. I actually wanted to start... Oh, hold on. I forgot my notes.
Wow. He's usually a pro. This is very not type A.
No, I think the conversation we had, you were telling me about someone who had like entered your world that was giving you the ick, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. But then I read this quote that I really enjoyed.
That time Natalia was toxic in the 27th way.
No, so this is really...
This looks like the notes you've been taking from our lives.
There is a note with your name at the top of it.
No.
But anyway, yeah.
No.
This is really scary, guys. I'm not...
Let's
start by saying that we all have...
You can see my handwriting. No one can read it other than me.
Same.
Okay, so we're gonna start this podcast by saying that other than all being only children, having one name, we also all have insane handwriting.
I have... Okay. I've just realized this, but I think the reason why we're doing a podcast on icks is because we are all a walking, talking ick.
We are the ick.
You know when you look up icks, like the main icks that everybody like conventionally writes off as an ick, which is interesting because it's kind of like, is that actually our ick or are we just absorbing it? But it's only children is an ick, is in a top 10. Nut allergy, ick. Overuse of emojis, ick. So I think I'm going to be the person in this podcast that loves and embraces ick. You know, I think you got to love your differences.
Is that because you love and embrace yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I just got cheesy so fast.
And I'm going to leave that right there. Okay.
I want to clarify that talking about the ick today with someone, you come back to the thought of how much of the ick am I to people, and I want to just come back to it because before we start attacking people because of our icks, which are a lot, I want to come back to the fact that I have had relationships that have shown me that what someone stood, like they like accepted and had to dealt with me through their icks that I knew were icks, but they were like, I'll put up with this because of the other stuff and whatever. Some other people have remarked as their favorite things. So I think that's important when we attack icks, that some people are like, oh my God, your laugh is so fun. And then some people's laugh just want to make you vomit. But
yeah.
You know what I mean?
What would we all say? What's our definition? What's
of
your
ick.
definition?
Let's start with that.
Of ick.
I have notes for that actually. I think of icks and like boundaries and red flags on like a continuum. Whereas an ick is something that's, you know, low severity, low impact. It's
continuum as like levels?
Do you mean like would you say it's
ascending?
Would you say it's an escalation?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I would say like icks are low severity, low impact. They're temporary, they're subjective.
Irrational, would you say?
Not
Because
necessarily.
I had something interesting where I was like, I wonder if actually I've been deeming my icks as something that's harmless and kind of an irrational thing, you know, and almost like the strong sense of revulsion is actually kind of irrational because it's harmless compared to something that's boundaries or red flags. Like, for example, you suggesting the thing about the waiter. Treatment of a waiter to me isn't irrational or harmless, so it's not an ick.
But the fact that something is irrational,
yes,
does it mean that you don't act upon it because it still affects your attraction to someone?
Well, I think that's within the definition of does an ick change your attraction to someone? That's the thing. Do you allow the reaction of your body to change your mindset, and is it a body before mind thing?
Okay.
Hit us, Wes.
Well, I was thinking of like icks as like low impact, low severity in terms of like really the consequences for life are not hugely significant. Okay. They're more preferences, right? Then we have boundaries, which I think sit in between that in terms of like their personal limits about like what's acceptable between two humans, right? And then there's red flags, which are just persistent patterns of behavior that indicate like deeper issues, I think.
Yeah.
That's how I like to think of it.
Yeah. I prefer that definition.
Okay, now the thing is, what I feel like we struggle a lot with is when you say low impact, how do we evaluate the impact so that something that we're accepting doesn't become settling? For something that you could potentially like more, even if this thing is not impacting you dramatically. How do you accept someone's like laugh that you don't necessarily adore, with the knowledge that there is the potential of someone out there that has a laugh that you really like? Is what I mean.
That's an interesting question.
I just analysed my laugh so much.
Your laugh is the cutest thing in the world. Let me just say it.
What about what came to mind then was...
It is an ick if you don't have Sammy's laugh.
Don't. I can't now laugh. What about the difference between a quirk and an ick?
It's the because in the eye of the perception.
Exactly. Because some really like for example, when I laugh too hard about something, I will snort.
Yeah, same. Is the laugh?
Yeah, right? like, and to me, that's actually like, I think that to people who like that, it's actually like a winning sign to them because they've actually like kind of cracked me.
Yeah.
So they find that like a little quirky thing that could ordinarily be like someone with a snorty laugh could be like icky. in some people, but if you actually have a little bit of a crush on someone, it becomes more like a quirk than an ick.
Yeah. Okay, so there's something beautiful about that, though, that I think it's interesting, because I think whatever you believe on, when it comes to like how the universe works or spirituality or whatever, I think there's something really cool about the fact that like there's some sort of little hints of who you should kind of like, the things that you should follow by random things that you would like that are very special. I feel like that would even make it more special than something generic, like someone liking that you're hot or that you look good, like just stuff that are like, there's something more special about something for me. Someone that I, not only complimenting, but someone that I truly know likes a quirk. That means more to me than them liking some.
But we can change it into an ick. That's what's interesting.
It's the perception.
Well, especially like I think icks are like glitter.
We're actually gonna go into it. What are your icks?
No, but icks are like, hold on. Icks are like glitter. Okay, I feel like
Glitter?
yeah. You know when once you find glitter on you, like sparkly glitter, like it's always gonna be there. You keep finding more, and it's always there. but like when you're in love and it's a crush, you can kind of see the sparkle in it. But then when you're breaking up, it's just fucking annoying. You're trying to get it off, so it becomes healing. So you can actually turn a quirk. So if we need healing in a breakup, turn your quirks into icks.
That is one of the, I heard that not long ago with the comes to situationships. Just find an ick. If something is unhealthy, find an ick and stick to it.
Yeah.
Hang on to that ick. It'll be so healing.
Yeah.
I love the analogy of the glitter. Yeah. Wow.
Right?
It's so good.
Because it's sparkly or it's the most
Or it's
fucking annoying.
annoying, yeah.
Okay, Samantha, what are icks that you have like pointed that you're like comfortable speaking about evidently?
Other than myself,
No, outside real icks.
real icks. I really have a thing when you've ordered food and someone goes yum yum or like yummy before eating, and I don't know why. And that's why I say irrational. Also,
I mean, that's pretty rational to me.
shadow boxing.
Oh my god, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Wait, hold up. There's a difference though. There are people who actually train and like they actually box and they actually fight, and I appreciate the art, and I can understand it. I can also understand it on set when you need to get yourself revved up. I understand. Do I condone?
Yes.
Something.
Yeah, she will condone in a voice memo to me.
Something when I'm walking past a trailer and someone is just like, I try to talk to them, but they're just too busy getting into the shadow boxing. I dried.
Yeah,
Yes.
shots were fired. Okay.
So yummy and shadow boxing.
Yummy triggers me.
Yummy.
Because do I say yummy? No, it triggers me that's an ick.
It's not just yummy, especially British people. Yum yum.
Yum yum. Right before, so I go and I'm like yum yum. That sounds wrong, but if I go yummy, didn't I just say yummy before eating your food?
Yeah, but it's my food, so you know it's going to be yummy.
Oh, what
Yeah.
icks you is before. What icks you is
Yes.
assuming that
Because it's a
someone's
lie.
yum.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. You have no opinion.
I will say yum with your food. I will say yum with a link.
It's like it's when you're at a restaurant, you've been delivered something and someone goes yum yum or yummy, and I'm like, you don't know? You don't know.
What if they bite it and they say yummy? Is that fine?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
But also the whole thing about clapping on a plane, right? I think I'm actually kind of like,
Have you ever had that? Someone clapping in a plane that you're fetish?
not that I'm potentially with, but sometimes I've seen people clapping and I'm just like, well, they just be appreciating. So I think ick is so personal in that it's like, is it actually something that you're like, check yourself? Is it actually something that you're personally feeling?
yourself.
Is it instinct, or is it
your
just what we've absorbed from social media where everybody goes clapping on a plane is an ick?
I haven't had the clapping specifically, and I'm not sure how I would react to it than bullying, because the person I need to date needs to be okay with bullying. But if you stand up on a plane before it's open, that is the last time you'll ever see me.
Oh yes.
That is not. That is like a. Is it like a black flag? That is not.
Oh, that's a really good one.
That is because that feels like something deeper,
Okay.
like a value fundamental way of moving through the world.
Like Crocs in sports mode when you're not doing anything sporty.
See, I live in that, so that yeah. Wow, this is very revealing because I have a lot of things that make you icky.
Do I?
No, I have. Like, I'm in sportswear all the time.
Yeah, but this is what I said at the start. I find the beauty in icks.
Because it's me.
I find it
can
hot.
do it. I can be
Give me
really
someone
lemon
with icks and weird, and I'll date you. There you go.
Okay,
Passing on to
what are
Wes.
your icks?
My icks. So I was up in Byron Bay with
is my-
this
yeah.
girl, and we'd been on the Gold Coast. A mutual friend of ours was having a birthday in Byron, and so she'd flown up to the Gold Coast because I was there for work, and then we were driving down together. And we get to this part of like roadworks over the hill. For those of you who know Byron, Bangalow Road over the hill, down into Byron, and we're stopped by roadworks, right? And so there's a guy there with the stop sign, right? They're doing roadworks, they're not letting us through. Suddenly, she winds the passenger side window down of the car, leans like, I don't know, like half her body out this vehicle while we're stopped, and starts
to picture half the body of her.
mooing at cows in the paddock.
Oh no, I think I did.
And it's in this moment where like the guy with the stop sign and I just lock eyes. And we're just both looking at each other like, is this real life? Like, is this, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like, oh, it's just like moo and then like move on with life. It was just repeated for like a good 30 seconds. And I think he just let us go out of pure like just
30
desperation
seconds. Okay.
for us to leave because he couldn't believe what he was seeing anymore. And then, no, so I have.
Was it with baby voice or was it like a serious moo?
No, like fully. And
Did she have a good enunciation about
like
it?
I don't know. Whatever she thought she was communicating, I don't think she was because they just kept walking further away.
Kind of admire the boldness, though.
So then we went. There's also a place in Byron called the Farm, which has animals, and we ended up there several days later. And so she's like, I really want to see the cows. So then we, go to the paddock where she sees the cows, and she looked at me. She was like, I'm gonna climb the fence, and I was like, why would you do that? Like, why? And she's like, look at the cows. Like, their butts are so fluffy. I just want to slap them. And I was like, oh, okay, so cow fetish of some sort, like. But yeah, that was an ick for me. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. It's a lot to sheep. So what?
Can you do the sound?
Yeah. That was a good, right?
See, to me that's hot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But then I was raised thinking like one of my favorite scenes ever was
Babe.
so that was my introduction to fetishes.
I like to feel them reply.
I
So
just
when I
like
feel like I'm one with
sheep
nature.
do, yeah. When
Yeah.
you buy the sheep, they will reply.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna dare say something before I say what was my introduction to this fetish. Is that I think the fetish, I think the ick is not that she does that, is that the cows didn't reply. Do you remember Dory talking to the well?
Yes.
Isn't that super endearing? Is that an ick? Because I'm like, what do you mean you're trying to talk well? That is so cute.
Yes.
Which is what I told you when you told me that.
No, but they're
About the
they're
moon.
both fish. So they're just different versions of each other.
Everybody so underrates
If
the
she was
voiceover
like-
of that film.
Yeah, if she was trying to talk to a horse. I'd
Yeah,
be
but
like,
that's what I
an
mean.
ick.
If the sheep answered, you feel like, oh, that's cute. If the cows didn't answer, you feel like the cows like are looking down on her as well, which I think is the ick. If the cows would have moved back, would that be an ick?
Probably not. I think you're right. Yeah.
Because then it's cool. Because it's like
then it's
she's showing she can speak in
I'm
other languages.
also intrigued by like I think going back to your point about the social relatedness of icks, right? And the fact that this is communicated. I was having a conversation with a friend after this, telling them a story, because I was like, I couldn't believe this freaking happened. And she said, do you think it would have been less of an ick for you if the guy wasn't standing there watching this happen? Right? Because the guy with the stop sign was there, and I was feeling judged because I was like, because he was looking at me like, that's your mate, right? And so I think that's part of it as well. It was like the third party judgment of me being associated with what was happening became an ick. Yeah.
So societal pressure, basically, of when we act. I mean, when you think about it, it's basically acting not within what's acceptable within society. Are we then actually thinking that's an ick because it's not fitting into the realms of what we're expected to do? And therefore it is an ick just in opposition. Like when we strongly oppose something, is it actually because we're fearful of it? And so is it actually an ick is just because it's something out of the realms of what's accepted in society because we're fearful of it?
I agree, and I do think that's a part of it. I do think big rejection comes from, we spoke about it in the podcast with Sabrina, but I think big feelings like that come from things you see within yourself. But the thing is that if there's something that you've consciously been trying to hide and not come across, and then you date or are seen with someone who's doing it, it's gonna push it forward. But then within that, the thing about the ick, I think, is that there's a big part about from the other side of being the icky one, which I'm great at. I think I can sense, and we all can, but I feel like I can, or it's something I'm hypersensitive to, or I really think about when I start seeing someone, or potentially I really care about how much they care about people's opinions in events and stuff, because that will have a massive effect in how I act. So I try to, in a sense of like, when I know that someone's really aware about how they're coming across and how people are perceiving them in events, and they're really caring about it and making a lot of comments with it, I feel so restricted when I'm with them.
Yeah. I thought you were saying that as a positive thing. I was like, oh,
no, as a thing that I'm either consciously gonna not go into this interaction further, or if I am, because I will not feel like I can be myself in this situations.
Is that more boundaries than icky though?
If I feel like they're thinking about how they're coming across all the time, I know they're gonna be hypersensitive of what I'm doing.
Right.
And then I do feel like I'm not, whereas when I've been with people that have this attitude of I couldn't give less Fs.
Yeah.
Because they just have this attitude about this type of things. Then I feel like they're being just with me and laughing at random shit. And then I feel like that also comes up. So it's really interesting because I wonder how much of our feeling ickiness is restricting people. And then...
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we call that like self-monitoring, right? As kind of like an aspect of someone's personality. They sit on a continuum of like low self-monitoring to high self-monitoring. So basically what you're saying is that like, if you are in relationship or in close proximity to someone who's very high self-monitoring, then it's kind of contagious in a way,
it's contagious.
Right? Yeah.
It's so contagious, self-monitoring.
I think that played into what I was just thinking about it in relation to our cowgirl.
We're defending cowgirl.
And whether... No, don't get me wrong. I think I would also struggle. I think if it was a sheep, on the other hand...
Yeah.
The funny thing about that is she still follows me, so she's probably going to see this.
Well, I'm defending you, girl. I'm here for you. I think it's just interesting, is there an element of self-monitoring when we feel an ick because we're worried about other people's opinions
of us in that scenario? For sure. I think that was definitely true. Yeah.
So what were your icks?
I do feel I'm not gonna answer. No, I do feel like one big part of that actually has come from voices from people in my past. So I will get the ick for something that either my family would get the ick from or my exes, and I've had that where I'd be like, does this bother me, or do I know this person in my past would have made fun of that? And then part of me feels a bit Like it's in
Interesting.
relationship towards that, and I've had that with family where like I don't know if something is an ick for me, but I've known someone in my family, I've seen them making fun of something, and then I'm really confused when I'm confronted to it because I'm like I'm not sure this annoys me really, but I know if you did this in front of this person in my family, this would be a thing, and that kind of it's an ick on itself. Because it messes with how this person perceives me because I'm accepting you. So then I've had moments like this where I'm like, I don't really have a justification why this is annoying for me.
Okay.
So I just need to make sure that if we keep this going, you only do it when we're in this environment and not in this other place.
So again, in other places where other people can see.
Yeah, but also I've had this with people in my past that I know would criticize it that are not part of my life now. But I feel like just the fact of thinking they would be making fun of something diminishes it in my head because I feel like I'm past that relationship. So if the something is low for their standards, then it's even lower than them.
Okay.
Even if it's something that doesn't really make a sense to be icky about. So then I have to reframe it. But it takes time because my body feels the same rejection. Because I've trained myself, especially if it's a long relationship, to reject that too. Because I've heard so many comments about
That's
that.
so, because I wonder whether I've always been doing the opposite in that. I do mean it when I was talking about the glitter thing and seeing it like icks kind of as shiny things. Like there's nothing really, I mean, even the shadow boxing, I probably laughed at it and find it kind of hot and sexy for some reason. Like I seem to find a way to things that affect my body, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. When I'm falling deep with someone, I think I spin things in positive ways, which can get dangerous when you're looking at the escalation of...
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, but it can be dangerous when you're looking at the escalation of icks to boundaries to red flags. Because I've always been someone who doesn't take body warning signs as things. And I like to see them as quirks. And I find I like weird people. So they usually always have things that would probably be like an ick, but I find as curious. But then where do you draw the line between ignoring your bodily reaction to things and boundaries and red flags? Off you go, Wes. Therapize that. Hit me. I'm ready.
I know.
But I think, as Nat said, it is one of your most endearing qualities. Like the way that you can just...
It's alchemizing.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's alchemizing, and it's also, I think, in a lot of ways, like it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you turn it into that. Because you're like, oh, this is actually really great. Like,
Yeah.
it becomes something great. You know what I mean? I think you
Yeah.
have that ability with people.
Can it be toxic?
There's some eggs that, yeah, I don't really know how. There's different sorts, right? So you have fashion. I don't think necessarily, or in my experience, when I've been with people that I'm like, oh, I'm not necessarily into your fashion style, that has not really played into attraction because I'm attracted to other stuff. If I can bully them about it, and they're fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can bully them about the ick,
Yes.
I'm fine. Then there's another ick that I was speaking about today, and this is very specific to women, I think, but it could go both ways, but it's more common in women. If you kind of try to flirt with me, or if you try to compliment me by comparing me to other women, or by saying like, you do this better, you look this, like, or by bringing down someone in this to another woman in the environment, I will want to throw up. And that's an ick that I try to get over in a situation. And
Is that an ick though,
couldn't.
or is that a boundary thing?
I think
like
that's a red flag.
That if it's a inability to raise up and encourage your partner without having to compare and knock others down, that feels more like we're in between the boundary red flags section.
I think, yes, that's where I think, for example, you cannot make that.
Yeah, that's what. So
Awkward.
that I think it's you have to be careful if you're someone like me who's sitting on that borderline of trying to make everything beautiful or
Because we do that.
We
We
do.
love doing that. We're like,
we
oh,
said it the other day. We were like, oh, we can
we can make this
we
work.
can make this beautiful
make
and
this-
we can
yeah.
make this work, but with things like that, if it's subtle enough that you're continuing to do that and you're not noticing your own boundaries with what you'll accept, then I suppose that's how things can carry on.
I think a nick that we've discussed with Wes lately that kind of prompt this conversation a bit, an ick that I'm fighting with, that I, as open-minded as I try to be, is having different beliefs.
Oh, yes.
Because if we consume like podcasts and books and films, it's because we are open to changing our beliefs. Nevertheless, there's still my ego telling me if someone believes something else, they're wrong, evidently. So then that comes interestingly enough, because when it enters that realm, when it's like political beliefs, religious beliefs, we're speaking even political beliefs with friends and coworkers.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fight within how much of this belief will affect me personally, how much of this belief makes me feel like your IQ is lower, and how much of this belief is just me feeling like I'm right for no reason, just because it's my belief. How would you categorize that when it comes to like, it's either religious, political, or like personal beliefs? How would a belief be fine and something you could deal with and respect, and then something that comes more towards the boundary red flag area?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, within that, I would say that in the spectrum of beliefs, we have beliefs that are real core values to us. And then,
Such as?
For example, like operating, for me, it's like being someone who operates from integrity and like someone who's kind and loyal and honest. Yeah. But I think one of the challenges that, one of the converses of like believing honesty as a core value is that people are going to tell you things that you disagree with and that you don't like, right? Because you told them, hey, I really want you to be honest with me. And then suddenly you're like, oh, not that honest. Like that's horrifying, right? I think that's a natural consequence. So understanding the things which for you are core values, and then the things that are preferences. It's like I would love someone who's really into the same sport that I'm into, but if they're not, I think I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But will you? It depends on how often do you do that sport.
But then it's a compatibility thing. I feel like then you're moving out of the ick section and preference section and more into the compatibility thing, where if your core values or your moral values are so different that it will affect your day-to-day life, your economics, the things you want to do, if you have children, like other friendships.
I think that would beliefs. Yeah.
That's when it changes things, because it's no longer an ick that's like something that's harmless. That's affecting your entire lifestyle. And if it's something that you're able to integrate and adapt, and the compatibility can still work through that. Whereas if it's a core belief for you and a core value that affects your day to day that is so different, then is that just not something completely different in its own entity?
I'm not sure, because I've had this conversation a lot with my mom, who disagrees with me within this area when it comes to, for example, lifestyle. And we've spoken about it in some different circumstances when I'm like, there's a moment where like I don't really know if someone, I've like experienced people really respecting my lifestyle when it comes to sport and the amount of energy that goes into that area and stuff, but do not share it, and it gives me the ick. But because I think it's like that fear of the future of like, this is just gonna be annoying at some point, where the romanticized kind of like honeymoon like phase is done, where you bend over backwards for the other person and you're like, oh yeah, this is so fine, and then you're just like, okay, but are we respecting 8 hours of sleep? Like an ick that, funnily enough, I was that ick for someone in my past that changed that, is someone not respecting their sleep. That's an ick that I've like, and it's not as common as like, it's actually a lot of people don't have insane sleep hygiene when it comes to like, where are you putting your phone when you go to bed, how much on screens? Are you going to bed? Are you going to bed and then someone else is on their screen still? Or all these things, I think, the light at night in the house, my mom is always telling me, like, these are things that are just so small when it comes to someone's, like, values and how they treat you and how they move in the world. But that's been so hard for me to kind of, like, deal with and be okay with, because then I extrapolate it, and that's where I have a hard time deciding what to extrapolate and what to know. Because I'm like, if you don't respect your sleep, do you respect
What does
yourself
that mean?
much?
Yeah, you don't.
Will you
care.
respect?
If you don't work out, do you not care about your health? Do you not care about your body? What are the consequences of this going to be long?
You know what I mean? Can you take
Yeah.
care of me if you don't take care of yourself?
Yeah.
And then with the sleep, it's really easy to adapt now, but then in the future, when I'm telling you, like, because as a couple, and if you end up in that situation, you'll have to make decisions for sleep. You need to be agreeing in, are we doing 8 hours, and what time are we going to bed? And
Well, this all feels to me like it's a compromise question. How much are you willing to compromise before losing yourself? And it's obviously not worth it if you're going to lose yourself and your core values. However, there is always going to be elements of compromise.
what would you be okay compromising?
I think that's it. It's this question of, am I losing myself and my own integrity and my core values? So if something for you is sleep is an indication of everything else stems from that, then that is such a core value that you would not compromise that, because in doing so, you feel like you are losing an element of yourself.
Would you leave or try to change someone within that type of circumstance?
I think you can make suggestions. I think you can discuss. I think honesty is the best policy with that, and discussing how important it is to you and understanding why that area you're having to like basically with a compromise, you're moving in a certain direction. You can either both sort of try and meet in the middle with it, or say for example your sleep, you'll currently have to move all the way over to your partner's schedule. So the question is why are you having to be the one that completely moves in that area, and why is it that important to them? So I think really you can only solve that with discussion.
But not really when it comes to what you just said about when you're moving towards them, because I do think that I'm giving sleep as an example, because sleep is something that even if the other person can be like, I'll respect you going to bed at 10 and waking up at 6 for sunrise and whatever, but I want to do my thing. You doing your thing is already a different sleep for me, because if you doing your thing comes with either you going to bed later and that might wake me up, or you having your phone in the room, where that's something that I've taken up for years, and we share a bed. You know, I feel like these type of things is where it's just like, it's hard in a moment where I know in society in the past, people would do much more compromises in the past, because you would kind of date the people from your small town or whatever, and it was so much more limited. Now,
I don't know if there would be more compromises, because my hypothesis in that scenario is because you're all from the same place with the same history, with the same culture, you're actually going to be a lot more similar.
So you think now?
So I think we do. The potential for, or the demand for compromise now is actually a lot higher because we're a lot more different.
Interesting, but don't you feel like the fact that we have so much more options means that people it could be more discardable, and it could be easier to be like, ick, next?
Oh yes, I think that people are definitely more discardable, but I think the requirement for facets of life to compromise on is higher now than it used to be, because we're more diverse.
Okay.
Can I go back to the sleep point? I think it's really interesting, because you and I have very different sleep schedules, right? It's like, I'm nocturnal. I survive on 4 to 6 hours. I'm great to go, right? Like regularly I'm up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I get my best ideas and that's when I do my work. Yeah, so, it's like, I was seeing this girl who was like, she would go to bed at 8:30 and she would wake up at 4:30 in the morning because she would go for a run. And we were like a couple of months into this, and we were like, it's like we're in a long distance relationship, but we're in the same place. You know what I mean? Like, this is insane. Like, it's like I would text her, yeah, like good night when I was going to bed at like 3, and then I'd wake up at like, 8, and then I'd get a good morning text that she sent me at 4:30 in the morning. And so it was just thing. It was like, this is not working. Like, we value different parts of life. We operate on different schedules.
And you don't go to bed at the same time.
No.
But
Never.
obviously, you got to remember there are people who do shift work who manage to work this, and it's the thing is compromise is so individual. Like if in every other facet they are your everything, and then that you make each other so happy, but that is just an area where one of you does shift work and one of you doesn't, and you guys have, but it has to be a compromise that both of you are fully willing to, and I hate the word, but it's almost to settle on, which this is the thing, and we all hate it. Everybody cringes. Everybody cringes.
I think it's very interesting.
But we've all reached, I feel like as a trio, we've all reached this point though, that wherever we hear the S word,
I think
we're all like, life's too short. We only live once, so and there's go find something where you don't have to settle and compromise. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying that people I think
that's a real challenge in the mindset of the culture that we live in. It's the fact that we have access to so much information. We've adopted patterns of behavior that work for us. And so when we end up in relationships with someone with different patterns of behavior that work for them, there's natural friction. And I think also we live in a society where like compromise gets a bad rap.
So what's the difference between compromise and compatibility then? Like if you have to compromise a lot, are you not compatible?
I think so, if there's no agreement upon it.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally within the concept of boundaries and compromise, that kind of, I see these two things as very interrelated. They require interpersonal negotiation.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think, people tell me it's like, oh, that's my boundary, like as if it's an individual thing. It's not, because boundaries must be necessarily interpersonal, right? And they must be negotiated between us, right? Now, the level of respect for that boundary that occurs over time will determine the level of compatibility. But that's something that has to work itself out over time, because in the same way, boundaries that have been set and negotiated then change throughout the duration over time. Right?
Oh, completely. I mean, for example, you join a relationship when you're younger.
Yeah.
You will often mold into their lifestyle, and without realizing you end up compromising more. And then over time you mature, and your compromises that once were okay are no longer not okay. And then it becomes a boundary thing, and then you've realized that you're growing in different directions.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, I did a little reel, but did you see that Emrata comment about dating?
Yes.
Older men.
Yes.
I think there was something so interesting within that. The amount of compromises you would do then, just coming from your, like, the structure in your brain being moldable and wanting to be molded, because that's how we're programmed until we're 25. We want to be molded. But I think that's something that is one of the scariest things about the S word, about settling for me, is that at this point of my life is really hard for me to imagine, even though I'm not longer under 25, it's really hard for me to imagine the settling without stagnation, or without, because in order for you to say something that I was able to compromise on then became a boundary, you have to have done some sort of growth. There's some sort of stuntedness that had to be unblocked. But then sometimes people will have at 50. So then, like, where's the line where, like, you need to do that self-discovery alone? And where's the...
I think it's when the compromise, if the compromise is enhancing you.
How would it be enhancing you if it's something that you're compromising?
Okay, for example, you and I get together.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Say
perfect relationship.
I have awful sleep patterns, and I come to a compromise where I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave my phone in the bathroom, because I agree, I think it's better for us. But, like, I want to play this kind of music in the bedroom for like half an hour, and like, can we just try and shift the bedtime by an hour, and we can work it back over time or something to try and like ease me into it. There's compromise, but it's enhancement for both lifestyles.
Yeah, but you just said ease me into it.
Yes.
Which means that you're willing to go my direction, basically,
Yes,
is what you're saying.
because it's an enhancement for my lifestyle.
Okay, but yes.
So when compromise, I don't think it's settling when you are compromising for something that is actually enhancing you. So if you are joining, you want a relationship that is an addition to your life, right? So if I'm starting to learn to compromise in certain areas because it's actually enhancing my lifestyle, I don't see that as settling. If I'm having to compromise on something that is actually a core value of mine that I feel is more of a drag rather than a raise, then that to me fits in a settling category.
I agree, but I think I agree because we have a pattern, you and I, to want to be taught better ways of doing things and better habits, and I think the thing is that I agree because that's how I got into my habits now as well, because I want to be in relationships where I feel like I want to aspire to some of the things that you're doing that I haven't done. But then that can have a very big coin shift where you're not entering a relationship in an I'm enough now. You're in like all of these. I need to eat better. I need to sleep better. I'm just scared that within that I become the person that is telling you need to go into this direction because I know what a better lifestyle is. And within sleep, I will argue that I'll always improve your life if I do that for you because I'll give you years of life. But within productivity, within food, when is it toxic?
When it's no longer, I think the things that you're describing there aren't actually a compromise. I feel like a compromise is when two people are coming together and having a discussion and
as equals
yeah. And trying to meet a point that works for you
for both of you. Yeah,
what you're describing there seems more like something that I think younger people do often in relationships where it's molding to fit what they need, and that's not two equals coming at something, and that's not compromise to me. That's incompatibility and trying just to mold yourself to fit to stay. Does that make sense, Wes?
When it comes to equals, what do you think when it comes to equals? Because I think I love the term equal, and I want to be perceived as an equal in the relationship. But I also realistically don't behave that way because. No, I say that and it sounds beautiful and that's what I want to believe, but I'm only attracted to people that I feel like I'll need to do so much work to get to. Oh. Like so it's really weird because I say I understand the equal, but I'm actually not that attracted to someone I consider equal.
That's interesting.
I feel like I want to, because then I feel like I'm not gonna grow at the same speed.
That's an admiration thing.
I find myself in dynamics where I feel like I'm not enough, but because that's the only way I got attracted to this.
I think there is different ways of seeing equal, right? Because I think back to, relationships that I've been in, and it's like, we might not have been academically equal, right? But we were equal in our willingness to listen to each other's voice and perspective. It's like we might not have been financially equal, right? But we were still willing to kind of like listen to each other's input in that scenario. So I think it's a level of willingness to hear and listen and take in the perspective, right? And it's from that place that you could go, hey, listen,
but value it as well, as much as you value your own perspective. That's what you mean with listening?
Yeah, it's like, I'm willing to hear you out on this perspective, you know what I mean? And then because your partner knows that you are willing to hear them, they are willing to kind of cede responsibility in areas where you have greater expertise, Well,
I feel like often when we're thinking of just equality within humanity, like it's like basic human rights of both giving each other the basic human rights, which is to hear and listen, and they have an opinion, a valuable opinion. Whereas I think that gets
value that opinion. Yeah.
Treat them as a human. Like you are both human beings, both coming at this with an opinion. And where can you meet within that? And is one of you completely having to change and lose yourself? And if so, then that is not compromise. That's just change. And that's your choice if you want to do that. But I think all three of us don't want to do that anymore.
I think that's interesting when it comes to losing yourself. And I think that's something that's super important. That is that I'm not saying we all need to be healed and whatever, but I think it's hard to know when you've lost yourself when you haven't even found who that is before you enter a relationship.
Yeah, so real.
It's a fine balance because of course you're gonna always keep on finding that out, but that's where I feel like maybe the conversation of the keep on getting to know each other is so important, because maybe the version of you that you have met when you enter a relationship is not the version of you that exists or that you want to let out now, which of course is going to be stronger up until you're 25 and your prefrontal cortex has developed. But you can, the change you can have from like 27 to 35, like I'm pretty sure the boundaries we have now when we're going to be sitting at 35
until we know ourselves.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
relationships,
which is what a kind of my approach.
Know yourself.
I think it's interesting because, you know, and I think regarding the topic of compromise as well, it's, you know, in terms of compromise and core values and losing yourself, is one partner's belief system necessarily going to impact the other partner without their consent, right? Like, you know, I think about belief systems about like women's bodies and what you can or can't do with your body and the level of like regulation in that, right? That is not, there's no compromise on that. It's very dichotomous, you know, as a, because if we're in a relationship and I hold to the belief that like there are certain things you can and can't do to your body, that impacts you. We can't find a middle ground on it. There isn't a middle ground on that. So I think that's to go back to your question about like where the line is. I think that's where the line is. When things are unilateral and you can't come to a compromise on that because there is no middle ground, that's when you kind of have to make a decision and be like, okay, here's the boundary for me. How do you feel about that?
It's like men on the pill.
An abortion. Which is then why, coming back to the ick of beliefs, to not extrapolate, because then there comes the whole religion thing when it comes to things like, here's what is really hard for me to kind of find a compromise on, is like the fact that you believe, you have one of your beliefs relate to the fact that you think you have a say in this subject over women's body and what we do. Even if you will respect what I do, it's really hard not to extrapolate that. Because if you already feel like you have the right to say what's right and what's wrong, rather than I would do that or I wouldn't do that, I think what you said about being consensual or not to affect someone's opinion, I don't think it's always consensual, and I don't think we know about it. I think when it comes to, for example, men being okay and comfortable with menstruation, for example, and how they relate to their partner during their menstruation and the attitude they have towards it, I think that that's such a slow burn, sneaky way of changing someone's belief and on making someone feel a bit uncomfortable about something that maybe they didn't feel uncomfortable entering. That's why I feel like the consent there is really hard to determine, because you will, and I do feel that the other way, but you will affect someone sees themselves in a relationship.
Completely, until it becomes a boundary for you. For example, the fact we even have these conversations and we know that is something that is now a boundary for us. And that is something that, so it is interesting that perhaps it wasn't consensual and perhaps that is something that you learn. But again, I think that is a self thing. I think that is that when you know what you will accept and won't accept, then it's a very simple boundary, no boundary thing. But the problem is often that takes time, and that takes you figuring it out, and that is that. But you will reach that point where, again, I think it does come down to self-work and understanding for you what is acceptable and what is not. And then you do have boundaries. Otherwise, if you don't know yourself, you don't have boundaries. How can you have boundaries if you don't know yourself?
Okay, now I want a question for both of you. Is it easier to get to know yourself single or in a relationship?
Sorry. Nina had a great answer for this.
Did she?
Yeah, she did.
Wanted.
I presumed you had to go on a crusade alone and learn all the answers in a desert. I was told that that is not quite true. And actually being in a relationship can trigger things which allow you to question your behavior to them on a daily basis and see changes. So I don't think there's a right or a wrong with that. I think you can do it in both, but it's just... Oh, Wes, hit me.
This reminds me of a funny story. I can't remember, not that long ago, like probably late last year, I was saying to my therapist, I think I'm really ready for a relationship. Like I really want to be in a relationship. And he said, why is that? And I said, because I think, I feel like we've worked through a lot of my personal stuff myself, and that I need to reach a level of like relatedness in a relationship that activates my attachment system to bring the deeper seated attachment trauma to life for us to then work through that in therapy. And he looked at me and he said, that is the most Wes reason for being in a relationship
literally need an
I've
experiment.
ever heard. Yeah.
Did you put an advert out? I am looking for an experiment.
For someone to trigger my attachment trauma. Yeah. No. I think there's different kinds of working through.
Yeah.
I think there's working through in both seasons, but it is very true. I think, I look back on like going into lockdown and only seeing a select number of people who are obviously my nearest and dearest and who I wanted to see, and thinking I remember coming out of that season being like, man, I am spiritual, I'm grounded, I've worked on myself, I'm so patient. And then I encountered humanity again and I realized all the reasons why I hated it, and I was like, no, I haven't changed at all. In fact, like I've become more intolerant because I've been in my own bubble of people and things that I love. And so I think that's definitely the case.
You don't love
your answers. I don't love your answers.
Hold on. If I know the answer you wanted, it's impossible in a relationship. You don't be attached to anyone and always be alone until everything is perfect.
That's what I'm going to use in the short. in the little league. Okay.
She needs a dance break because she's uncomfortable. Like the physiology is like,
First of all, I think you're both wrong. No, I understand where you're coming from. And I respect you as an equal with your opinion. Nevertheless, within that alchemizing, I feel like comes a lot of questioning. Okay, so I'm really confused about this because I agree with the triggers, my mom agrees with you, but we spoke about this as well not long ago. We specifically, but a lot of people have this ability to chameleon ourselves.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Chameleon ourselves into the environment we're in.
Yes.
I think potentialized by like acting in therapy, we're speaking about the mirror neurons, but that's why I find it harder to hear, to read my own voice within stuff sometimes when I'm in a relationship, because I'm also simultaneously trying to fit perfectly within it or reflect. So then it takes me longer, I feel, and I'll get there. I'll for sure get there. But it takes me more. Please go, Sammy, it's your turn.
I want to challenge this. I think that's the relationship.
You think that is the relationship? What is the relationship?
Our ability to chameleon potentially is based on think about it. Do you do it around us? No, you unmask yourself. So the question is more, are we just chameleoning because it's the wrong relationship?
Oh, and that's the right moment for my joke. But I didn't do it, so you do it.
Okay, sorry.
Not
Wait,
to the floor,
whose
not to
mic?
the
Whose
floor.
mic is this?
What do you mean?
Whose mics are they?
Who do they belong to?
Yeah.
Dive in one.
I'm not dropping it on the floor.
You can just drop it in your.
If it was Wes's,
Where would you drop Wes's?
because Wes would be more understanding.
Okay. Ooh, that's what I'm serving at this moment in time. I'm challenged by this because it is true. I'm not chameleon. I'm not. I'm not. I think it's interesting because I think it's easier for me to do that in friendships because I don't do that in friendships. But I think there's something that we spoke about it when it comes to my reluctance to commitment sometimes. I feel like I've often observed the pattern of romantic relationships becoming transactional for approval in the moment they become romantic. Like, people pass from friendship to romance. I'm like, oh, you're an approval machine now. And I've seen myself doing that, and I've like stopped, and you can be, but there's something that I'm not using you as approval machines right now. I'm not. I love your approval and I love your challenge, but I'm not. Whatever you have opinion on what I'm gonna say is gonna determine. Whereas I feel like that's more of a pattern I see within relationships. That's where I feel like it's more. That's when the ability of going chameleon comes, because then I know how to behave to I get more approval.
Yeah, but I think that was also a long time ago. And it's not this version of you.
Yeah.
And I think the awareness of that pattern itself is the secret to escaping it. Because if you know that's the tendency that you have in identifying it, you know when you're doing it.
So don't you feel like that's a common thing, like in terms of like that seeking approval from the person you choose as your romantic partner?
But
you
I
don't
also-
feel like that's a generalized thing you would have seen?
No, I don't think you are doing it anymore. Like from listening to the conversations and with friends and people I think that is something that potentially we both did, and especially with productivity as well. Like productivity, and we're working for love and approval. Whereas we've reached this point where I don't think that we are looking for approval anymore, and we're at that point of finding real self-worth and self-love that doesn't need approval or approval from, productivity to earn love. Like that was something that it was discussed and isn't something anymore. So I don't.
You
think
feel like
is
that's
something.
fully gone, even within. You feel like
Around the right people. Yeah.
because you assume an inherent approval because you don't care about that approval.
I don't need it.
Don't you feel like the energy shifts when it's that romantic partner where you're hypersensitive to their reaction to, like right now I'm gonna make a comment and yes, I'm gonna care and I'm gonna pay attention to your reactions, but I'm not as hypersensitive, and I do feel like I still am when I have a romantic attraction towards something. There's a higher sensitivity to how you're reacting to me and to my jokes and stuff. I do, even if I'm not necessarily being like, I want your approval and I'm gonna still act in the way that I want to act. There's how you probably know this research. You remember there's something that activates a different part of your brain. Les talked about this, your reptilian brain, that gets activated with, I think it's 3 triggers. It's like your first name, so whenever you're asleep. So like your name, like when someone needs to breathe after they've fainted underwater, it's your name, and then I don't remember the other one, but the third thing is you feeling like there's someone else attracted to your partner. And it goes, there's a research, like you feeling like there's some other attention going to your partner. It's the same reptilian brain that activates, that goes before the rest of the brain.
Yeah, the threat center. Probably amygdala, yeah.
So I'm curious to know if there's nothing. I do feel like there's a hyper awareness, maybe even not necessarily, but it annoys me. So that's maybe why I'm confusing with chameleoning, but I am paying more attention and I'm like dissecting the words more.
That's really interesting. Because I find I have a tendency to do the opposite in relationships, in which I
Oh, this is okay.
because I find I get really complacent and like I get dismissive.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh wow, that's so
Yeah.
confident.
Because I just like
I would have been like, he does not care. I love it.
I definitely, because I'm like, and I'm really great because I have friends of mine who are like
No
listen
care.
to what they're saying. Like, are you not paying attention?
Like in what type of
and
stuff?
and like,
Like what would you like about?
I'm trying to think about it. I'm trying to think of a concrete example.
Does it come across as cool? Do you think just as like
It's a little like
unflappable?
yeah, it's a little callous. Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
told. So like, I had a partner who was
Yes.
like, this version of you is really callous
So my type.
in terms of like,
Sorry, English is not my first language.
how would you describe callous?
How
Like,
do you spell
like,
callous already?
not quite dismissive.
Yeah.
It's like acknowledging, but not
It's
acting on it. I guess it's kind of like, you know, I think partly.
how many
that is
times have we said
because-
laissez-faire? Like
Yeah, very
yeah,
laissez-faire,
laissez-faire.
yeah.
That's the best
Yeah.
kind of thing I can.
And I think it was, and she was like, you are, you know, it's like, I don't need the therapist right now. Like, can you just be here? Like, can you stop? She's like,
Yeah.
every time I say something to you about my opinion on something, you reflect it back to me to acknowledge that, like, yes, I've heard you, but then, like, nothing changes as a result. Like, there's no onboarding of any of the information.
It's
I've
fire
communicated.
extinguishing.
You've just reflected it back to me.
Yeah. God, why?
Because you're really well trained at doing that, and you do it.
Yeah.
But you do it almost automatically without
Yes.
you being in the room.
No, Nat and I have been talking about this with people we currently know who are like completely. We say they're fire extinguishers. No matter what you fire at them, they can just extinguish it and reflect it back, and you're like, wait, and then somehow you're still answering yourself, and you're like, what was your opinion?
Yeah.
Wait, no. How does this affect you? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't experienced that.
But chameleoning.
Sounds great.
That was an example. That's an example. See,
Of what?
laissez-faire.
Yeah, but because it doesn't affect me, I'm jealous. I'm not jealous. I think it's cool. I think maybe not.
Why are you jealous of? No offense, Wes. But why?
No, it's fine. Go with that. I was about to ask the question because.
Yeah.
Because that's a very powerful stance.
Why?
I'm jealous.
Why?
Because I think the fact that you assume that doesn't threaten how much someone values you or how much someone admires you or how much someone looks up to you, it's very endearing, I think. The fact that you don't correlate your hyper adaptation and your hypersensibility to how they're reacting to small things like this happened are proud. Like, I'll tell you, like, I can see this pattern. Again, I'm not saying it's happening all the time, but I can see this pattern where if I come and I'm telling you good news,
Yeah.
I for sure care and I'm really perceptive of how you react in general with my friends. I don't think I'll be dissecting your every single vocabulary, like how you use vocabulary, how you moved your eyes, as much as I would.
No, but I think now we're confusing chameleoning with anxious attachment.
That's literally what I was about to say.
Is it? Because
Yeah.
Because, for example, you're
I
not
don't think someone's
changing.
gonna leave
You're
me.
not changing. Yeah, but that's nothing. Chameleoning, right, is changing and adapting yourself to fit a scenario. To stop them from leaving,
you can only
change.
hypersensitive.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think you have to be hypersensitive to change. I think it can be such a natural instinct. Just it's survival technique. I think it's a survival technique to mold.
Chameleon?
To chameleon, to mold to fit someone's lifestyle so they don't leave. Whereas what we're discussing here is hypersensitivity. Yeah.
I don't mean so they don't leave because I don't have. That's not a fear I have of abandonment.
Okay, so why would you ever chameleon? Why
It's the
are you
admiration
changing?
part.
So you're changing for
It's an
approval.
ego thing. It's an approval machine. What I mean, I don't really have that necessarily like fear of abandonment because I haven't had that and I've never experienced it. And I also assume that people will stay even though they are.
But isn't approval still getting them like it's still keeping the relationship. Like without their approval, they're not interested in you.
Unfortunately, and this is gonna be quite controversial, but I'm gonna say it. Unfortunately, with men, I assume they won't leave because I feel like women are, and even statistically, I think women are usually the ones taking the decision, even when things are not working. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like a lot of men would stay for other reasons and also wait until, maybe again, this could be a toxic belief, but I feel like if I was dating a woman in that scenario, I would be a bit more thinking they would do that step, whereas I feel like.
So it's chameleoning more than, okay, if we reworded it, it's chameleoning for approval within a relationship. I still don't think you need hypersensitivity before chameleoning. I think that can be a natural instinct. I think it's just you can mold, like people go into certain environments, even, okay, dialects, accents.
Yeah.
We pick it up. Just it's fitting in.
Oh, for sure. Do you chameleon yourself within friendships, you think? If we say we chameleon, do you do that with the friendships?
Not with the right friendships. No, that's what I mean. With the right friendships and the right relationships, I think I unmask completely. Like walls drop, guards drop, because there's nothing to
prove.
I don't need to, it's not even proving. I think it's trying to fit in. Whereas I think there's respect and appreciate. It's open door friends. It's like what we were saying, that people are choosing to stay when I am completely naturally me. But I think then the hypersensitivity thing is potentially, are we not moving potentially more into the anxious attachment discussion with that? What do you?
Yeah, I think so. I would say that. I agree with you on that. I think going back to the unmasking part, I think there's a difference between people who, I've always seen it as a difference between people who want to put you in a box,
yeah,
and then people who actively are trying to get you out of the box.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Okay, we need to go into this. We need to dive into this so deeply. Okay, let's just dissect that from start. So,
sure.
You're dividing categories. You're dividing people into two categories. People that will try to feed you into a box, and then people who will try to get you out of them. What's the why behind both of these decisions for these people?
Good question. I think the people who try and put you in a box do so for a degree of power and control and predictability. They want to be able to predict what you're going to do next, so they don't feel helpless, so that they feel powerful, so that they, have a sense of predictability and control over their environment and your behavior as a part of that system. I think generally you'll find that people who are often trying to fit you into a box will desire that control over all sorts of different aspects of their life. People who...
Of their own lives.
Yeah, of their own lives,
okay.
I think. People who want to actively try and get you out of the box, I usually find, are people who've been put in a box, have managed to get themselves out of the box, and so they've kind of made it their life else out of boxes as well. They're like, you're in a box, you're in a box, you're in a box, get the fuck out. So I
love that so much.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I really like that.
What a therapy session this was.
That's so accurate. People who have managed to escape the box. Almost feels like the Matrix. It's like people who have realized the Matrix and understand it are now like, all right, guys, let's get everybody on board.
Don't take that pill.
I'm drawing a correlation right now in my friends who've done that and who have in their ways taken me out of the box. And the people I tried to do that for, which I hopefully try to do that. And we hopefully try with the podcast, but it's so interesting because I'm thinking back and I'm like, it's so interesting that you specify it's also people that are trying to control predictability within all other aspects of their lives. Because I do think a lot of the conversations with Sarah, for example, go back to her like scrambling. Get out of that! And also the boxes we put ourselves in. It's like, nope, that's it. Where did you get that box? Why did you just build it? We haven't spoken in 4 days. You've built a new box. But it is so interesting because then I think within relationships, That's a great way of filtering who you'll be able to grow with and not stagnate, and who. How would you determine in their behavior at the beginning of the dating period, like in the questions they ask, in the way? How would you try to assess that when you're starting to get to know someone?
I think it's in curiosity and like wanting to know, right? And it's an openness to all aspects of you. I think people who are actively trying to get people out of the box, one of the fundamental things they acknowledge is that there's a universe inside of you, and there's a multiplicity of you, you know? That's one of the key things, I think. And so it's like, who is this version? Like, you know, how are you different to what's before? What are you learning? It's a curiosity in that regard, I think is a real green flag for me in that kind of example. I also find that we can often, by the way that we operate, put people in our world in boxes, and then like only rely on them for one thing. I definitely used to do that a lot when I was younger. I've always kind of worked in a whole bunch of different industries and fields, and I very much kept people separate. And I was like, oh no, that's my friend who like I can only go to for this. That's my friend who like I talk to about the industry. That's my friend who works in academia with me and is my collaborator on this particular project. And I would put people in boxes. And it wasn't until I went through a season where I really needed help, and I like, for one of the first times in my life, was like, hey guys, I need help. And I watched people who I didn't expect, you know, kind of like come out of the woodwork to be like, oh my God, thank you so much for asking. Then I realized I was like, oh, like you wouldn't have been my first choice to go to for that, right? But you were so helpful in this season. Like, where else have I built, you know, and I realized I'd built all of these walls and boxes to categorize people in my own life, when all of these people were actually desperate to break out of the box and receive, you know, access to all parts of me. And so I think that's really interesting as well.
Well, it's also what you said actually in your last podcast, that if you're not, it's easy to categorize people and then not be present during their change. And that was really interesting. I also think that element of, I loved what you said about seeing the universe in them. I think there's something about, often we create our own boxes, and there are certain people that come into our lives that see and hear you underneath the box.
That's what I was telling you, that they like see behind it.
Yeah, they see it.
And it's
they
so
see
gentle
it.
and curious.
And then often they're the type of people who will ask you a question, and you will probably answer with your automatic box reaction of absolutely not. And then 3 weeks later you wake up and you go, oh, that question was rhetorical, and they knew actually what I was thinking about that. You guys do that to me a lot. All the time. You'll ask a question, I'll have an automatic response, because that's like the little box that's the Sammy answer to that. And then 3 weeks later I'll be like, they weren't asking me that question. They knew the answer. They were just waiting for it to be it's a nudge. It's a little nudge. And I think there are people who do that.
Gentle.
It's a gentle nudge. The right people come in and they just nudge the box a little bit until eventually you go, okay, I kind of want to see what's out. That's it.
That's beautiful. And that's a beautiful way of saying that when it comes to my question of whether or not you grow more alone, because in that regards, you don't grow more alone, because I've grown more with people that are like trying to take me out of the box. So it's really interesting to see it like that. I do really like the box, because when it comes to the chameleon, I do know very well, even we spoke about in the podcast before with Sammy, when it comes to agents, I've seen this a lot, where that's why I really care about how this person is seeing me, because you can also see very evidently when someone's going to put you in a box within that, when we're already in an industry that loves boxes.
Yeah, so true.
So when you're with an agent, that you can know that vibe, and then that's where the chameleon part comes. And I think also that comes, it's separated as well with acting and modeling. But with modeling, we do want to fit that box of whatever job we had that day, in a sense. And like that plays into it, into like, no, but I could be this flowery dress that I would never in my whole life wear. Ever get out. But I don't buy it. But let me show this camera that I can just be like using it. But I think, yeah, within relationships, it's interesting to see it as a box, because then...
That's like the banana apple thing. Do you remember that Les would always use? Acting coach Les.
Ah, yes. Yes, but then also Les nudged me into following the box. I think Les was really interesting, and I think he'll be fine with me saying this, but I think...
Wait, he nudged you to be an apple or a banana?
I think he specified the fruit.
She's actually an orange.
I would go
I knew
pineapple.
Because you're prickly on the outside.
Yes,
Oh, I
but
thought-
like super sweet on the inside.
Oh my god.
And super hard to open. Anyways.
You're gonna cut all the bits out.
Yeah. Anyways, but he went. I was so.
Why was I only thinking of the other reasons of pineapple?
I know.
What other reasons would they be, Sammy?
I know.
Sweet and delightful.
I know. Yes.
Carry on.
So I will carry on, indeed, Samantha.
Sorry.
So last. Yeah, because then I started playing into. I don't want to play the box. So then I was very, 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 very consciously not wanting to play into the Latina box. I don't want to play any of these roles.
Oh, we do that all the time, though. We do the complete opposite. Like, I had this huge refusal of, like, don't play the modelly roles.
Yeah.
I must be the young 12-year-old.
must be ugly.
I must be the young 12-year-old boy. And to prove my skill. And I'd do the opposite. I'd completely do the opposite, because it felt like you had to ask for permission to travel from one industry into the other sometimes. So I would outrageously do ridiculous things that were the complete opposite to make a point, which also doesn't really make sense.
Which is also not real. But that was his argument. And I think I love that you just used the word permission, because he went... We launched into the bigger conversation about the box and the agents and everything, just out of one moment in a tape. It was kind of like a police thing, like an interrogation thing. And it was a moment where he finished one take, he like pulled me out, and he went like, would you not use in real life any seduction tactics here? Would you not use that? Is that not one of the strategies? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, no, you do know. Would you or would you not? In this situation, interrogating him. And because he was a man. And I was like, yeah, I would. And he was like, why don't you? And I was like, because I don't want to play that. Because that's like the low-hanging fruit. So it's kind of like that the things that were kind of real within that is like, I'm not gonna be your freaking Sofia Vergara, coming back to the comedy jazz, but like, I'm not gonna play into that. Let me try to do this scene but then that's also not real, because it was not real how that person would use it. So then it kind of went like,
That's climbing into the wrong box.
yeah. And then play into the box so then you can get out of the box, which is also part of the metrics, right? Of play into the system so then you can decide to get out of the system.
Yeah. Or crawling into someone else's box and then becoming codependent. That's another one.
That just got so...
We might have to cut that bit out.
Yeah, wow. I'm sure that you mean a character, and then you're talking about seeing that.
Yeah, you're talking about audition, right? Yeah.
And then...
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Anyways, the box. No, that's a very interesting question to ask yourself, where you want to know if we are either compromising to a stagnant state where we don't grow, or we are jumping into beautiful amount of triggers that will pull us. Because the questions to get you out of the box are triggers when they arrive at the moment. No?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You two trigger me 24/7.
Do we?
Yeah, you just sit there with these knowing eyes.
Just
keep going.
Or it's like you wake up in the morning and there's a series of voice messages and you're like, oh no.
Triggers.
It's going to be an
fucking
existential
hell.
crisis.
And I think that's a very, very beautiful way of aborting icks, boundaries.
What would ick be in another, like, what's ick in Spanish? Like, what would be...
I tried to speak about it with Spanish speaking speaker today, and there's no translation.
So is there
It's
such
like
a thing?
disgust.
Interesting. So do you think the
It's very
Western...
strong.
Do you think the Western world is, like, we've adopted in, like, an icky
No, because
thing?
I could name a lot when I spoke about the system.
But is that such
They
a
don't
thing?
call it. I think it doesn't. It's much stronger when you try to translate it in Spanish. I do think we are influenced by what we consume. So I do think the fact that we have much more content in English speaking about the ick will push us towards trying to find more icks. It's again back to reticular activation system.
Probably just an ickier group of people.
That
White people are icky.
Yeah.
no
We are. Come on.
Depends on the level of whiteness. Depends on how aware you are of your whiteness. I think that
Ordering
changes a lot.
lemon, like, what's it? Like mild lemon and herb from, like, Nando's. I used to swap the flags.
What do you mean?
I put extreme hot on when I actually ordered, like, really, really mild.
Oh, I'm
Just
not-
to threaten people.
I'm Colombian and
So
I
that
can
they
have
would be
this
scared
spicy
of you?
food.
Yeah, I think it's fear, admiration. It's a mixture.
And I feel both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worked and yeah.
It's not even, like, no redness, no tear, no nothing.
I think
Yeah.
ickiness and oh my god, do you imagine Sammy? This is my dream. I'm gonna declare it right now on camera and then I'm gonna cut to this clip when it happens. I can't wait to see you on the first week feast on the wings competition. You know the hot wings.
Oh,
Hot
yeah.
ones.
Oh my god, guys.
I
I'd
can't
be
wait to
so
see
bad.
Samantha with her competitive
Yeah,
nature and hot
that
wings.
would be great.
And this is me on the 10th of
She has
August,
to be.
2025.
You have to be better than Sydney Sweeney. That's the key thing.
I haven't seen it.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Although I know what I'd do. I'd touch my eyes halfway through, but then not tell
I would
anybody.
so do that.
And know I need to go to hospital, but would just keep going.
I would so do
You
the
would do
eyes.
that,
yeah.
I would do the eyes.
Why don't we do our own version and podcast it?
Because my belly is sensitive.
I would love to.
I forget
Of
you're the
course you
whitest
would.
one. You are the whitest one here sometimes.
Yes, but I also yes. Yes, but I don't have to prove that I'm exotic.
You don't need to
because
prove
I
to
am.
because you're
anybody.
accepted as
Yes,
you
I
are.
am.
You are
That's
You
unmasked.
busted out the box.
And she's white.
I'm not white.
She
I'm like
popped
so
out
short.
white.
Popped out white.
I
I can be white passing. No, but I think I do think the ick in Spanish. I do think they have different icks, and I think that that just proves that we are icked by the things that are icky for our environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do think I've changed my icks. My icks were different in Paris than they are here,
Mhm.
and I think my
They do
icks
change for sure.
yeah, my icks travel with me. They travel, they change. But I do think there's something that I wonder if your body's reaction should be heard towards stuff. And I feel like if you have a bodily reaction to something, that might come to a future boundary or a red flag.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're listening to your body in that moment. For sure.
Yeah, because I don't think you have a body reaction to someone wearing like weird socks.
Unless you're Emrata.
Emrata, but we're speaking about
Which is
Emrata.
actually really funny because I was in New York with a friend of mine who, when she first released that podcast, where she said her ick is the ankle socks, right? The invisible socks. And I
For men.
stopped, and they were my
Oh,
favorite.
thank
They were like my favorite thing, and they were, because I was like, you know, I'm not the tallest human. They elongate my leg, they don't break the lines, like it's perfect for me. And so
Why is it getting ickier
I
the
wore
more you
them.
explain it?
I wore them religiously.
She was right. She had a point.
I wore them religiously, and then the podcast came out, and I was in New York with a friend of mine, and I stopped wearing them. And she goes to me,
Ah.
"Are you not are you not wearing ankle socks? And I was like, no, like, ew. She goes, is it because of the Emrata podcast? And I was like,
No.
no. And
Never.
she's like, Wes, we're in New York. Like, I know it's because of the Emrata podcast. And I was like, damn it. Am I that transparent? She was like, yeah, I fully know that, like, the way your brain works, and your brain's like, man, if I hook up with Emrata, I want to remove all potential red flags because I like because
Oh
you know
my
that's gonna be the
Yeah.
line that prevents me from hooking up with Emrata. It's my
Completely.
socks.
Completely. Or it could be the chat up line. It could be you see her, you stop,
Yeah.
hand up, show her the sock.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah. I do think that's
I'm wearing
the
some
thing.
today. So it's okay if a woman wears them?
It's okay for women. He said for men.
Okay.
Yeah, she specified. She did a podcast with Julia Fox. That was really interesting.
I do see it,
The ick.
but I'm attracted to icks. So
I'll test that theory because I think that
I
sounds
challenge-
very awake. She's
I-
sounding very. I am. That's very media trained of you.
I
I'm attracted to
challenge
this
someone to give me enough of an ick that it's a bodily convulsion that I then question whether this is coming
Okay.
into boundaries.
What about burping without covering yourself? I've had this.
Oh, I know. I get angry at things.
Would you? What about someone amazing person? Just. I can't even imitate a verb, but just like in the middle.
Or chasing something down the street when it's blown out. That could be.
What do you mean? No, okay, no. An ick. This is an ick, okay. And I want your both opinions on this because this is an ick that my body feels very, very strongly. As it like kills my libido. And it's when someone is US, but also here, trying to join, like they're driving and they're trying to merge. They're trying to merge.
Yeah.
And no one lets them. And then you would
Oh,
merge.
yeah.
And
No,
then they have to
that's
stop
real.
stationary.
That's
Then
my
you have to just keep on going, and then you're watching this person not being able to merge.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's an ick for sure.
Yeah, but
That's an
but
ick for sure.
I'm not sure whether that's ick or more boundary for me because I'm like you are that indecisive.
No, like, yeah. So I was saying to one of my friends the other day, I was like, when
Red
I
flag.
indicate, indication is not a request for permission. It's information as to what I'm about to do. So I'm not indicating because
That's
like
hot.
I'm waiting for you to let me
that's
in.
really hot.
Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
I'm going, and you better
Yeah.
get out of the way unless
You're like
you want to hit me.
you're like
yeah.
an Australian bus.
Yeah. I am basically an Australian bus.
Yeah.
Australian buses are
Yeah.
so
Australian
scariest
buses.
things I have ever experienced. No, I think I've realised my problem. I'm acting all pick me and I'm like, oh no, I love icks because
Yeah.
like they're different. No, it's not. I think that's
That's what I was saying.
No, it's not that. I think it's that I've realised all of my icks I consider boundaries.
And that's what I was trying to get to.
It's
It took us
just
a
hit
while.
me. It's
It took
just
us a while.
hit me.
Yeah.
Because you were both acting on morally superior.
No, it's just hit me. I think that
Yeah,
that
that's
it's
the boundary.
it's a boundary. It's a boundary. It's a boundary.
Okay, so with that, I feel like, which is what, yeah, I think embrace your icks. I think embrace your icks because,
You are an ick.
wow, also, no, yeah, that's not what I was going.
Why? Sorry, can I? Before we round this off, I do have something that upsets me. Why are we all considered icks because we're only children?
So I had this discussion the other day with someone I like a friend. She's like really cool, and she asked me something about feelings, and when I said only child, she was like, no, but that makes complete sense. Like I'm not sure why I asked that. And then I was
I
like,
get that response actually a lot. Yeah.
I was like, that didn't feel right. So
Do you reckon everybody listening is like, yeah?
Like sometimes when people are like, oh, you're an that
Oh.
and I'm like, what? Wait, say it to my face.
What is it?
I think they say we're not socialized enough. But she was forced into like so you
Socialize,
were
yeah.
out of that.
She was
She was
forced into
forced to
socialism.
socialize. She was socialized. And this just changed from. She was like, yeah, you're good. You can give that excuse to people. I
Yeah,
think
and you're the same as us, so we're fine.
I And with that, we will wrap. We are perfect. That's what we're trying to say. I do understand, and I have this comment, and I think I've acknowledged it, and I've introduced this concept into my new relationship episode, so that I call it self-awareness. And it's like
New concept. Never heard of that before.
no. I mean the way I do it. I feel like it's self-awareness because I think an ex-partner saw me the first time after we had been together for a while in the interaction with my family. In the family, my maternal family, where I'm the only child. No one else had kids. I'm absolutely the only child in that family for my uncles, for my aunt, for my grandparents.
Are you the
And-
same, Wes?
No.
Oh, I'm the same.
I have
And
a
they
lot of
saw-
cousins, yeah.
They saw me within this interaction. And they went, oh, that explains everything. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it's like, there's not a moment today where you are not being. So there was someone touching me. Like either was someone, like either my grandma was like just scratching my head, or my aunt was playing with my arm. Like the physical contact, like they would take turns naturally. There's not a moment where I was sitting in the house alone without receiving attention. And of course, he noticed it because he's my partner, so he was living with me in another country. We're like, okay, I want to comment.
Did you experience that?
Anyways, I'm saying that in my.
Growing up in an Asian family?
I think I was Asian.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that with physical touch and with that, I feel like that's sometimes a really hard thing for a partner to provide because they feel like, oh my God, you do, like, this is a lot. And then when he saw that, he was like, oh, you are used to it since you're a child. The moment you feel left in a corner without physical, it feels really weird. And so then, because, and of course he was noticing it because he was like, when is my turn to touch her head? Like, what do you mean?
Our sound effects are fantastic here. It's like lack of understanding of like a. Wow. That's what's actual.
Anyway, so that's something that I think it's an only childness, and I introduce it now because I'm like, I did grow up in an environment where I felt that attention. And sometimes you do need to, as an adult in relationships, be like, the fact that this person is not giving me that amount of attention doesn't mean less love. And I do feel like some people that have felt that I'm just kind of like used to it and kind of, in a sense, entitled to a certain level of attention that can be a lot.
Accustomed.
Just
I don't like
accustomed.
that. Can I stop you there though? I just noticed you said that's something I've been doing. No, you said that I can be a lot. And I think that's something that we blame on only children where we're like, we're meant to get attention. We're too much, a lot. And I'm like, no.
No, it's not like we're performers or anything.
You're not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Gonna die.
no, I do agree, and I do correct. Guys is late and she's...
Everybody carry on. It's fine. I'm gonna be totally fine.
It's zero only child to be performing like that at any time.
Totally fine.
I do agree, and I do want to say, I think
not
you're
too
right.
much.
I'm not too much,
not
and
too
it's not a good
much.
thing to be saying.
No.
I do. It's the high maintenance, and I do think it's important to like explain to someone if in some areas of your life you are high maintenance, like your sleep or physical touch, and then let them have that information at the beginning of the relationship. Okay, now off to you explaining why you're Asian, because I feel like you just depressed everyone with your reaction. And I feel like before we close the podcast, it's important to know that you're both happy and stable.
I think, like, I am the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So if like I have a thing about space being an only child. So like I have to have my own space. And if I'm in a large group of people for a long time, I need to retreat, and I will become a wallflower for a period of time in my own space, kind of observing the things that are happening. It's so, because we were talking about the fact that we were all only children. This time last year I was in Greece with my friends Alex and Sienna, and we were at this massive pool party that our friends were throwing in Paros after their wedding. And the pool was there, everyone's in the pool, everyone's around the pool. And we were like probably like discreetly like 3 meters away, sitting on a couch together, just talking. And as we were talking, we all realized we were only children. And it was that moment, and we were like, oh my God, it makes sense. 3 of us.
Okay.
And because, Sienna. And so we were all just there, and we were like, we were, and then like intermittently, Sienna's probably the most extroverted of the 3 of us. She would leave to engage, and Alex and I would sit there, and then she'd come back, and then I would go, and then Alex is the most introverted of all us, so he just stayed there. But then it was like this fascinating over like a 2-hour period, just like approach and then retreat, and then approach and retreat of like just needing the space. And the other thing I realized was that we could all, because then we ended up spending a couple of days together, we could all be silent together.
Oh, wow.
Because there's only children, it's like you don't have other siblings around and noise. So I'm very noise sensitive.
Whereas I think that, or maybe I've been told this so I've then kept to it, that I fill the space.
With light and love.
With
Thank
light and love,
you.
yes.
She knows when I need a head
That's
touch.
beautiful.
Yes.
Only child.
Don't stop.
Okay.
I'll take over. No.
That's interesting, because I feel like then we are all completely different, because you got the touch and you got the touch.
Oh, it was okay.
You got the touch and we didn't get the touch, but that makes you stand back, and that makes me dive in head first.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
But do you think that's a work thing?
I mean only in relationships, in a sense of like, I'm only in romantic relationships, I'm that physical, because you guys know more than anyone how much time I spend alone. I spend 70% of my life in the cinema alone. And even if I go to the cinema with someone in a week, I still need to go alone then, because it's a different experience. So I have been alone a lot.
I think it makes
just
us
think when
pickier.
I'm in a relationship, it makes us pickier because we're
makes us
happy
pickier of
alone.
who we
especially
spend
when
time with.
especially when you've left your country as well. When you're used to moving a lot, you're used to being alone.
Well, it's because we'd rather be alone than feel lonely in something.
But that's why then I'm pickier within a relationship, because then if I'm in,
You're right.
I need the head scratches. Like if I'm in, I do feel
She's
like
asking for one right now, so yeah.
I was actually thinking about one as well.
I'm actually okay. So then I actually think. Thank you. I actually think.
If this isn't the most lonely child
I know. And our parents and we miss our parents. No.
I think.
Anyways.
To kind of summarize, I think it's important to realize that, compromise is essential in relationships. And I think we're in an era now where everyone is very focused on like, oh my gosh, like I can bring my I need to be in a relationship where I can bring my authentic self like 100% of the time. And sometimes I'm just like, no, like that version of you's horrible and like really horrible to be around. And you're like, you need to rein that in for the good of humanity. You know what I mean? Like there are rough edges for all of us to kind of sand off. And that's what relationships help us do. And I also think that there is this unrealistic expectation right now in society, in the broader discourse, where it's like, I can bring all of my authentic self to the table, but you have to respect my boundaries. Right? And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways where you're like, no, I'm 100% authentically myself all the time, but you must respect my boundaries. It's like, there is give and take. And that's what I think, that's what we're missing a lot in the broader discourse. And that's what we're seeing that entitlement kind of play out in relationships. And so I think that's just something people should be aware of.
I agree. I love the fact that you mentioned rough edges. Because within the beginning of the conversation, we spoke about how some of our icks are people's favorite quirks. And I feel like the only way you will be able to allow people to enter that space and to see it is for you to show your rough edges. I don't know who said this. It's been said 1,000 times, but you know how like they're saying that you can only hang on to rough edges in people, and I think it's the same within characters that we like to watch in films and everything.
I love that.
You don't like to see someone completely like lisse. How do you say that word? Smooth, because then there's nothing to hang on to, and then you just leave. And I think that's really interesting because we do attach to people's rough edges, and the only way for you to allow people to do that is to show them your rough edges, and to know that it can be some people's quirks and some people things that like that they love about you, but then we also need to like acknowledge that about other people. And I do think it's beautiful to like it's a beautiful way of the universe kind of like giving us little tips about which directions with what we love.
Yeah, the little nudges.
The little nudges with, oh, you find that a quirk, so maybe explore that.
Especially if it's something that's in opposition to what you usually think. And check yourself, is it actually something that is challenging your opinion of things? And are you actually just worried about external judgment? Also, in terms of like showing your rough edges, I think we've all agreed, especially with the name of your podcast, that you need to figure out if it's a relationship that you want, you need to dive in. And that means showing all edges.
Yeah, dive in, and we're speaking about curiosity, which is wonder. So yeah, it's interesting because I feel like that, and I mentioned it, and it was in my notes while we'd spoken about it, which is I feel like commitment has also become an ick. And more so now that we need it less and less in terms of how society works, I think. So I think it's interesting that, because then that also sometimes it's like the not really diving in and the just like kind of touching a bit with the feet, dipping. Then it also kind of prevents the other beautiful side of things.
Can I end on a really sweet quote that I saw the other day?
Yes, please.
From Francesca Tiginian. She says, "When our boundaries become too rigid, they stop protecting us and isolate us instead. They become walls, and we wonder why we feel so lonely. We're paying for convenience with disconnection. We've traded the messiness of community for the ease of solitude and lost something vital along the way."
Yep. Thank you for that. I know you want to finish in that way, but can we finish on what do you think we lost?
I think connection and community.
We miss out on connection and community.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's what we miss out on. Okay, that's beautiful, and I agree. Thank you for your notes.
Feels like a joint hand.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else
No.
that you have to say? Thank you for diving into this. I think it's going to be really useful for the divers and for us to go into existential spirals about this week.
Yeah.
Love you guys so much. Thank you for diving in, Wonder. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
À bientôt.
Adios.